Transition element is any d-block elements that can form one or more stable ions with an incomplete d subshell. We do not define scandium and zinc, which are in the d block in the periodic table, as transition metals because both of them forms ions that do not have incomplete d subshell. Always remember, when you remove electrons, you must remove the electrons from the 4s orbital before removing them from the 3d orbital. You do not need to memorize the common oxidation numbers for transition metals. For question number 1, we will try part 4, part 5 and part 6. Remember, for copper, we will have a different electronic configuration. Maximum oxidation number for manganese is +7 because only 7 electrons max can be removed before achieving the stable electronic configuration of argon. This question is similar to C. Properties of transition elements: they have high melting points, high densities, they are hard and rigid, and they are good conductors of electricity and heat. But do remember, the first ionization energy for transition elements do not change much across the periodic table. We can compare the properties between calcium and transition elements, and they have significant changes, okay, if in comparison. For example, the melting point of calcium is lower, the density of calcium is lower, and the atomic radius and the ionic radius of calcium and calcium ions are larger than the transition elements. The first ionization energy of calcium is lower than transition element. This is probably because as you go across the periodic table, the number of protons increase. This increases the nuclear charge that causes the ionic radius and the radius to be smaller because there is more attraction towards the nucleus. Do remember, the ionization energy across the periodic table for transition metals are similar with each other. Electrical conductivity of calcium is higher compared to the transition metals. This is understood because as you go across the periodic table from left to right, the metals tend to become more like non-metals. Ionization energy of calcium is lower than the cobalt because to remove the one electron from calcium, the electron is removed from the 4s orbital, in which the outer electron in the 4s orbital in calcium is further than the outer electron in cobalt. This is because cobalt has more nuclear charge and attracted slightly closer to the nucleus, because generally transition metals are actually much more to the right of the periodic table, and this makes it difficult to remove the electron. The density of calcium is lower than the density of the nickel because calcium has higher volume and less mass, and this makes it smaller compared to nickel.